Guys, you see a little smoke? Yeah, that's because I just burnt a candle from both ends. And you know what happens when we burn a candle from both ends? One, it smokes twice as much, and two, it burns twice as fast. And we talk about our lives being like a candle, and yeah, I'm burning the candle at both ends, but burning a candle at both ends can be dangerous because it's going to burn out twice as fast. And whether you realize it or not, 15,000 to 20,000 home fires are caused every year because of a candle burning. And I want you to listen to this podcast as you hear from my buddy John and how his candle nearly burned out, his life nearly ended as a young man because he was burning a candle at both ends.
So, John, thank you for coming on. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your ministry, and then just start from your story and let's go from there.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on here, brother. And appreciate it. My name is John Lashuay. I pastor a small church in southern New York. It's Pine Island Bible Church, right on the New Jersey border. I've been here for, we just celebrate officially our 10th anniversary. So praising God for that.
Amen.
I've been here longer than that, but I have a wife, Kara, 4 kids, 9th grader down to 3rd grader. So we have a busy house, but we're blessed. I grew up on the mission field. My parents were missionaries in the Philippines, and so in ways I'm a non-American, but I love
you like rice.
I love rice. I love good rice. We got to get that
There's
right.
A difference.
This is one of those sticklers. All right. So there's a lot of no good rice. Okay. So we got to get the good stuff,
Where you can reach in with 2 fingers and grab it. The good rice.
Oh, absolutely.
Sticky rice.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No, it's good. But yeah. So really, really love seeing how God's at work. God's been faithful just to guide us through the process, just various aspects of ministry and just everything to do with the journey. God's just been so faithful, but appreciate how
Amen.
God's working in our ministry here, and appreciate how God is just faithful to us.
Where were you prior to where you are now? John, did you go there right out of school, or were you in another ministry prior?
I went to college. I went to a secular college out in Western Pennsylvania, went for a degree in finance. And I moved out here after my mom passed away. Kind of God providentially used that to bring me out to New York. And I had no aspirations of getting into the ministry. Frankly, I was looking to not get into ministry as far as I didn't want to be a pastor. I didn't want to, it was just like, I was, wanted to serve the Lord, but not in full-time capacity. And God just providentially brought me out here to New York, and that was in 2000. And God just graciously moved me along in kind of like with breadcrumbs, another step toward it. Still no desire to serve the Lord in full-time vocational ministry, but over the process, God just kind of made his path clear, and here we are, so.
Wow, that's great. That is really good. So step into ministry in 2010. 2013. Okay. And serving there. And then when was it that, okay, everything seems to be going smooth, and then boom, you had that moment of sickness, and just kind of take us through that.
Yeah. So I had taken over for my mentoring pastor in 2010. I was the interim pastor. And I think that interim period really played into my health trial because 2010, I had our oldest. She was about 2. We had my second child. My son was on his way. He came July of 2010, and so I was working pretty much full time. I was interim pastor, 3 services a week. I mean, we were just burning the candle at both ends and in the middle. And just wrestling through the process, just trusting the Lord through the whole process. And June of 2012 is when they called me to be the senior pastor. And then so that was instrumental, I believe, in the stress load, not really understanding my body, not really understanding what stress does to our body. I love counseling, but I really wasn't understanding the effect of counseling, that as you try to help others through their trials, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And there's many wrong ways. And I think in a great way, I know that often I was taking on the burdens of those I was trying to help through their burdens. I was taking them on too much.
Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit, we come to fall of 2014, and having some abdominal pain. And I had mentioned it to my wife, and she said, "You need to go check that out." And so 6 months later, I finally submitted to typical guy, right?
Yep.
So March of 2015, we started that process of trying to figure out what's going on. And by the fall of 2015, I'd gone through a crazy amount of tests and probes and the whole 9 yards. I think my whole body was now digitally outlined.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know how that goes, brother.
I know how that goes. Yes.
And they concluded I had Crohn's disease. And so it was a matter of, okay, let's, I'm not one to, I try to stay away from medication as much as I can. And so I just was asking my GI doctor, "Hey, can we treat this dietarily? Let's see what we can do." And he was good. He was so good that he was willing to work with me and really kind of support that route. So we did that. Fast forward another year. So we come to the fall of 2016, and I just came back from Arizona, and man, I was a mess. To the degree that I went on a 2-week soup diet, that you're just trying to calm the system.
Yep.
And I vividly remember one day in I journal in my devotions, and one day, providentially, the Lord brought me to Psalm 13. And there's that, it starts off with, "Oh Lord, how long have you forgotten me?" And you know how that is, man, right?
Psalm 13 was it. Yeah. Same with me. So I know.
Wow. And so here it is. The pain is intense, and there's just no relief anywhere. And I love the Davidic Psalms. I love generally, especially when you see David and he's wrestling through life. The outline tends to be he's coming to God with this plea, right? "I'm struggling, I'm wrestling, I'm hurting. Lord, help me." And then somewhere in the middle of the psalm, there's this prayer, and it's almost like the light begins to turn on, and it's like David starting to he's spiritually kind of getting his mind in order, and then he finishes off in praise. And it's just like that plea, prayer, praise. It's just, and that's Psalm 13. And God just was used that in a profound way to kind of give me a renewed hope, to say, okay, all right, Lord, this hurts, but you're at work. Let's go, help me to trust you. And so that was October, November of 2016. And this is the neat thing, brother, is that over the course of from there until the end of June 2017, I tried to bring in guys to give me relief on Sundays. And it was like I couldn't find anybody.
Wow.
I think I had 1 or 2 guys who were able to come in, but basically through that stretch, I was getting into the pulpit every Sunday with breathing issues. At that time, I hadn't been diagnosed with Lyme disease. So I had breathing, like just labored breathing, high levels of pain, fatigue, or any one of those combinations every single Sunday. And so for that 10-ish months, 9-10 months, I every Sunday I came to the pulpit with that. And as soon as I started to preach the word, it's as if any issue I was having, it was gone.
It's amazing.
It was uncanny how God did it every single Sunday.
Yeah, I remember thinking when I was going through the same thing, why can't I just going to preach all the time? If I could just preach every minute of the day and feel that way.
Absolutely.
And I still don't know, was that a mental thing? Is that grace? But yeah, I know what you mean.
Whatever it was.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go, right?
Yep, that's right.
So June 25th, it was a Sunday, I believe. And a very vivid day etched in my mind. I went to stand, we have a bell that we ring to start the service. And so I step up there, it's 11 o'clock, and my breathing was just gone, right? I hadn't done anything. I literally went from my seat to the pulpit. I wasn't rushing around Sunday morning.
Yeah.
My pulse was through the roof. The pain level was off the charts. The energy, it was like gone. And I joked about, hey, maybe someone needs to take my place. And unbeknownst to me, my coloring, I was gray. Like I had just, I lost my coloring. And I sat down, and we have emergency room nurse at the time. She came up to me, she took my pulse, and it was 150.
Oh.
And it was like, okay, what's going on? And so she said to me, "You're not preaching today." And I'm looking at her like, this will pass. We'll be good, And in the back of my mind, what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about the 9-10 months where God has done it every Sunday. So why would this Sunday be any different?
Right.
We go through the singing, the whole first part of the service, and then she gives me this ultimatum. She says, "If I see you getting any worse, I'm calling the ambulance." And I said, "Okay." Kind of like, good luck with that. We're preaching, we're going, and God's gonna do it again, right? Why wouldn't he? Maybe that was just me being naive. I don't know, but I see you can relate. Well, I stood to the pulpit and preached without hindrance, for the entirety of the message, and there we go, right? That next week, I did Wednesday night service, and then the next morning, I was done.
Yeah.
The next morning, I woke up with just such high levels of pain that I reached out to my doctor, my GI doctor, and I said, I was actually able to talk to him. And I said, "I'm done. Get me on medication. I don't care. I'm done." And this is a guy who you can't get an appointment with for 6 weeks. And he had an opening that afternoon.
Wow.
It's a God thing, right? He thought, he examined me. He said, "I don't think it's your Crohn's that's really acting up right now. So I think you have some type of infection." So he put me on some antibiotics, wrote a couple scripts for antibiotics, and then and sent me home. And he said, "If it gets any worse, go to the emergency room." Well, I took an antibiotic that I was supposed to take with food, and I hadn't had any food that day, and that just that took the pain to off the charts level. Went to the emergency room, morphine, the whole 9 yards, and they sent me away. As we talked about, as we began our conversation, was, "You're fine. There's nothing wrong." Well, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how having this such a high level of pain means nothing's wrong. Usually
Right.
pain tells you something is wrong, right?
Yeah.
So that previous Sunday was my last Sunday for 3 months.
Wow.
I think that pain level kind of it floored me. I was bedridden for most of those next 3 months. Just trying to recover, crawling out of bed, crawling up and down the stairs, just trying to
Yeah.
get back to a sense of norm. So that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of where
And for
God brought me.
those 3 months, were you being treated in those 3 months? You're not walking, you're really sick. What's going on with doctors and all of that at that time?
Yeah. I ended up finding a naturopath doctor he's a medical doctor as well as a naturopath, and he's trained. His focus is Lyme disease.
Mm.
And so I went and saw him, and he ran some tests and found out that I had a parasite and he was able to, I guess through the testing, he was able to determine that it was a parasite I would have picked up at a hospital or nursing home.
Mm.
So, thank you, Lord, for ministry in those areas, right?
Yeah. I was going to guess maybe the Philippines, but it wasn't overseas. It was here, huh?
Yeah. They were
Wow.
able to, with that test, they were able to determine that it wasn't a parasite from the Philippines. It was something I picked up in a hospital or nursing home. So he treated me for that, and that was kind of like the first big punch to kind of get through that. And then, and through the process, he determined I had Lyme disease as well. So it was chronic by this time, meaning it's been longer than 6 months. So, you're having kind of like this type of Lyme disease. It really was a lot of brain fog. You're having this breathing issues that are they don't make sense. So your oxygen levels are totally fine, but like I felt like I could never catch my breath. I felt like I felt like I didn't have enough oxygen. Feelings of anxiousness. And I'm thinking, Lord, I counsel people who have anxiety, and here I am. I'm like, is this thought induced anxiety? Like I'm thinking right. I think we're good. Right. And so the doctor was saying, well, one of the symptoms is this, just this kind of, it's physiological. It's anxiety that it's Lyme disease. I was like, oh, great. So,
wow.
But yeah, so it was through that 3 months. I was working with him, working with my GI doctor. There really wasn't anything that the GI doctor was looking, unless they were going to put me on infusions, but he didn't feel that that was necessary. So, So we're really trying to get my diet into good working order. And it was kind of just this process of rest, and more rest. And
wow.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm trying to in my mind do the math. So your oldest was what, 5 or 6 at this time?
So my oldest daughter, Cassie, so in 17, that was 5 years ago. So she is now 14. So she would have been 9 years old.
9 years old. How did she handle all that?
Well, that's the interesting thing is that, boy, she did a phenomenal job. My son, 2 years younger than her, my two youngest daughters, they never knew dad as healthy. So this was just the way dad was. My daughter and son, especially my daughter, they had seen me healthy. And so later on, it really kind of came out that it weighed heavily on her. That she, that those unknowns, what's going on. There was that fear, the concern, and Kara, my wife, really helped her through that process, because in a lot of ways I was checked out, not purposely checked out, but my ministry to my family during that time was, Daddy's got to go take a nap. Daddy's got to go. Daddy can't wrestle around on the floor. Daddy can't, mom's out mowing the lawn. I mean, so I think there was a lot of impact on her during that time.
Yeah. I think there's, we talk about going through suffering and what suffering does to us, but there's so little said about how it impacts our kids.
Absolutely.
And you and I might not even know till another, it might be 10, 15 years down the road till it really comes out on, how our health issues really impacted our families.
Yeah.
And what they went through. So, burning the candle at both ends, we hear that all the time. I'll sleep when I'm dead, eating's overrated, all those things. And we've all been guilty of that. That goes back to, hey, who's got time? The world is run by tired people. This is what we've got to do. So going through that, John, I think many of us, whether ministry or not, we know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So you go through life. How have you adjusted? I mean, how have you done with diet? How are you disciplined enough to say no? The art of essentialism. This isn't essential. I'm not going to do it. Take us through, how you've come to the point now where, 4 kids is a full-time job in and of itself.
Sure.
And then you throw ministry on top of that. And I know you're mentoring young guys, counseling. Where are you finding balance? Yeah. I'd say I'm putting you on the spot. So just lie if you haven't.
What is balance, right? Right? You're it's hard to say no to ministry opportunities, right? I think a few things for me that I found tremendously helpful. One thing in just the nature of counseling is that I'm learning. So in everything that I'm going to say right here, I am learning. Okay. Mm-hmm. I haven't learned.
Yeah. Right? You should have get your wife on here. This is what you should be doing. Yeah.
So there's a lot, so it's not a settled thing. It's still, I'm in the process. Okay. Mm-hmm. Counseling wise, it's really become, being willing to stop chasing people.
Yeah.
There's some people that just they're not interested in being helped. They want a therapist. They don't want a biblical counselor. And so it's like, okay, we need to be able to spot that. And not everything's an emergency. And I don't always get that right. But we're trying, we're striving for that. Accountability in counseling. Okay. Look, here's your homework. Okay. You meet again. Did you do your homework? No. Okay. Well, when you're going to get serious enough to do the homework, you're coming to me for help. Well, then you're going to need to take my help and you're going to need to do what I say as far as homework, right? If you're not willing to do the homework, then there's not really much. It's not, we're wasting time.
Yeah.
So it's understanding how we enable instead of really help people in counseling. And I'm still learning that. So you have that. I had gotten away from exercise. I was an athlete, loved soccer, played rugby in college. It's just whole 9 yards, just always on the go, running track, the whole 9 yards, right? And I got away from that. And so I go in phases, I'll run and walk and do the things I'm supposed to do. And then it kind of like ministry gets so busy again. And so it's like, that ends up being the one that,
right.
And it goes by the
or
wayside.
It's 19 degrees outside and stoic.
Yeah. That kind of, don't feel like it today.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm with you. Yep.
So exercise is huge. And then, diet was big. I really found probably some of the greatest change when I changed my diet, when I really got serious with my diet.
That's good.
And diet. And again, you talk about balance. It's hard to say no. It's hard to say no to those sweets. It's hard to say no to dessert. It's hard to say no to those dishes that you enjoy. I love bread, but I'm gluten-free. So there's not much good gluten-free bread,
No.
And so,
Ezekiel bread, man, come on.
oh yeah. And out here in New York, pizza is just,
oh yeah.
so there's no good gluten-free pizza,
So you've gone, so with your diet, you say that's really helped you, which is awesome. So that's been gluten-free.
yeah.
And what else have you, obviously sugars, things like that. Are you sipping tea now? Or are you sipping coffee?
I have coffee. I love my coffee,
so
but
you're still doing that.
it's coffee without sugar. Okay.
Yep.
So I've found that I have to minimize my sugar, my cane sugar. So, so white, and raw sugar, the cane sugar is an inflammatory. All right.
Okay.
So it inflames my system, my joints end up hurting. I feel a lot more pain when, I have when I have sugar. And so I got to, if I have it infrequently, as an exception, we're good. When that exception starts to become the rule, then we're not good. Okay.
It's hard. Yeah. And that's difficult.
Yeah. So sugar has been big. So it's not removing sugar, it's minimizing sugar. It's minimizing refined grains, refined carbs, because they turn into sugar. So, go for rice instead of pasta, so staying away from the gluten, staying away from seeds, so berries with seeds and different things like that, and skin of fruit has been bad. So for most people, eating a lot of salad is really good. For me, that's not good,
Yeah.
So
I know it's hard to digest. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's trying to find that. So one of the, and you know this, brother, trying to figure out diet.
Yeah.
What do I need as what is best for me diet wise, right? Because at one time, you may eat one dish and it's like, okay, well, that didn't affect me. But then I ate something that is within that dish. And it's like, well, individually, I'm okay with some of these things, but then you put them together and it's like, well, they don't work together, so it's just such a challenge. So dairy is also another thing. Certain kinds of dairy so it's not just, so when you think of what's dairy, right? Butter, cheese, milk.
Yep.
Well, I can have heavy whipping cream in my coffee, but I can't have regular milk.
Right.
Okay. So the heavy whipping cream, it's where you get your butter from. So I'm okay with butter and heavy whipping cream, but I can't have like sour cream and milk and ice cream, Right.
So did you just kind of go off everything and just ease certain things in, trial and error?
At times we did that, and at other times, I mean, it was just this. It was a few-year process of all of a sudden something clicked. It was like, okay, there it is. There's, kind of put two and two together that you haven't been connecting those dots, and all of a sudden, okay, all right, and now we know, and now I have to be, I have to exercise self-discipline.
Yeah, you made a statement earlier. Know your body.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to burning the candle at both ends, how do we adjust work, sleep cycle, all of that, we were fearfully and wonderfully made, David says, and we've got to know what works, what doesn't work. I, like you, when I went off sugar, I was in a car wreck, so all this area is all messed up.
Yeah.
Ibuprofen, if I'm not at the chiropractor or mesotherapist, cutting things out of my diet, I didn't touch ibuprofen because that inflammation, it's out.
Gone. Yeah, it's gone.
And those inflammatories. But I was talking to a cardiac surgeon here at the church just a couple of weeks ago. And he's like, it used to be I was doing surgery on guys that, guaranteed dad had a heart attack, grandpa had a heart attack. It's like not anymore.
Yeah.
So with our diet and the stress and the things that we're doing to our bodies, these are guys that have no reason to have a heart attack that are having them. That I'm doing surgery on, and we're just not doing our body any favors or our lives any favors by living the way we've been living, again, burning the candle at both ends and trying to juggle the world and everything else.
It is so true. And I think I think one of the things is that I didn't realize I was doing as well, as far as trying to manage the lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Having something else other than ministry, meaning a hobby.
Yeah.
And I joined the fire department, and that's become my hobby. It's
That's great.
intentional ministry. So I get to gear up. I get to ride in a fire truck. I feel like a little kid again. I get to go and spray a hose and fight the fire or help somebody in a motor vehicle accident. And there's something about that's my intentional fishing hole outside of church ministry.
I love that.
And seeking to have redemptive influence on these guys are knuckleheads. I love them dearly. They are they're just themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have a great time, and I find that it's a stress reliever in a way that I didn't have that, because I was so focused on church ministry.
Yeah.
But one thing that's been so amazing with this stepping out into my community through the fire department, it's enabled me to have an intentional ministry that helps me better relate to the people of the church, because I'm challenging them to go into your community, go into your workplace, and seek to have a redeeming influence, a ministry to the people around you in your Jerusalem. And here I am as a pastor, I'm just ministering to the flock. Yeah. Like, I'm not doing the same thing I'm telling them to do, right? I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
Right. And so what this is kind of like opening my eyes to is that it's a multiple blessing of this hobby, right?
Yep.
But also this intentional ministry fishing hole where I'm able to put into practice exactly what I'm challenging the people to do. And it's really good. God is blessing in a great way. It's so cool to watch. So
that's awesome. So sometimes dealing with what we're going with is it is adding one more thing to the plate, but it's the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is that outlet, because so much of it is mental. So, outside of the box, we're not always thinking about this or, this job or, the end of the year or any of these things. Hey, I'm out fighting fires and my mind's completely gone from that. And that can be a huge help to us mentally and even contribute that physically. That's great, John. Yeah. Well, man, thank you. That's a great story. And man, we're hearing so much of Crohn's disease, and, every other commercial is, medicines I've been on. And it's just, again, like you said, I think some of this we've just done to ourselves.
Yep.
We were not created for stress. We're putting so much stress on ourselves. And when we are stressed and running here and there, we're just grabbing fast food and we're just killing ourselves. Yep. And we need to step back, take a deep breath, and okay, I got to reevaluate and see, I'm not going to be any good if I'm in bed for 4 months or 3 months, and I'm doing all this to accomplish so much, but what's going to happen to all of this when I'm 4 months out because of the pace I've been holding. Well, John, thank you, my brother.
Yeah,
that was awesome. And just enjoyed the time together. And if somebody wants to reach out to you that's battling Crohn's or has Lyme's disease, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you can reach me. My email is pastor@pibcny.com. So it's the acronym for our church, Pine Island Bible Church, and it's New York. So pibcny.com. Listen, I'd love to. God has opened ministry opportunity in a way, and you can relate to this, where people that are going through Crohn's, people are going through autoimmune diseases, you're suffering in silence. And it's so often you look fine. It doesn't look like anything's wrong with you. You look healthy, right? And so a lot of times we don't realize the person sitting next to me is suffering because they look okay. And so through this process, it's really opened opportunities to where people suffering with Lyme, people suffering with different autoimmune diseases, it's come to the surface, and we've been able to have good conversations, try to just encourage people through the process. But I'm it's a ministry
Awesome.
opportunity that God's opened that door powerfully.
So
Yeah.
if that's you and you want to talk to someone, John's been great with counseling, working with people. You have his email address there. I'll also put it in the comments of this so you can reach out to him if you have any questions, or maybe, hey, you want to be a fireman, call him and email him and he can tell you how to do that. Well, John, thanks, brother. And
Hey.
appreciate the time. Appreciate your friendship.
Thanks, Treg. Really appreciate it, brother.